evening. It is 5:30 p.m. and I call to order the November 19th, 2024 Board of Trustees meeting. Do I hear a motion to enter executive session?
Madam Chair, I move to enter executive session to discuss employment recommendations and updates and to review a contractual matter related to Assure Technologies.
Thank you, Mrs. Henson. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Is there any discussion? All right. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The motion carries. We will now enter into executive session.
Walk into the stage, and then we just wave to everybody to say hi, and then we explore our unified beating. It was very exciting, 100% excited for sure.
This is just a huge deal to me because I have always seen them as equals and as friends and as buddies and all that stuff. But today we got recognized nationally, which means that not only myself realizes that, but the whole school and the whole nation agrees with that, and that's huge.
Lexington One has been amazing in their unified and inclusive programming. River Bluff, before it was even actually built, had already signed off to be a unified champion school, which is completely different than every other school in the entire state. They had already planned to start some unified sports, inclusive youth leadership and whole school engagement within their school. And there's a lot of schools within Lexington One that have also bought in and have created this culture within the entire district that inclusion and unified is a pillar of their district. And it's something that they want to promote from elementary the whole way up through high schools.
I want all of our students to take away the thought of inclusion, the leadership and the courage to include everybody in everything that they do, acceptance, personal and social responsibility. All of those things are very important to the culture here at River Bluff, and important out in the world. When our students go out in the world, everybody is different. And seeing those differences here and including those differences here, students can take that for a lifetime.
We are teaching bigger lessons in life, teaching lessons about character, teaching lessons about folks being included in all walks of life. Our classes now for those students, our project, our PE Unified, Dance Unified, all those classes have doubled, where it's now competitive, where students covet that experience and they want to be a part of that experience. And these are some of our outstanding leaders, like Molly, who are outstanding young leaders who are giving their time to love and serve others. That's the core of River Bluff. That's our heartbeat, and that really speaks volumes to our culture.
All the students at River Bluff should realize that it doesn't only have to be at school where you include, it can be in the grocery store, in a restaurant, anywhere you are. I think that they should take away the being recognized nationally and take it away in their lives forever and ever.
One teacher in particular has stood out when I think of my journey at Red Bank, and that teacher is Miss Herring.
One reason why Miss Herring has impacted my life is because she's always welcoming.
2 years ago when I first met you, you greeted me with a warm smile and you looked excited to teach the class.
Hi, Miss Neto. You were my favorite teacher because you did not ever raise your voice at us and you were funny and nice to everyone.
Don't write this.
Okay, I won't read it.
You're a great teacher and incredibly talented at teaching.
So Miss Winley, so I was thinking about you and I just wanted to say thank you for all that you have done for me the past 3 years. You've been such an inspiration teaching me dance.
I met Miss Warney my third grade year. It was her first time teaching at Pillion Elementary. I remember the first week of school going into her room and thinking she's nice and pretty. I knew it's going to be a good year. She helped me understand my 9th timetable by teaching me the 9th streak. She helped me become more confident in myself with friends and schoolwork.
When I doubted myself, she helped me persevere through it. When I had trouble spelling a word, she gave me the strategies and tools I needed to figure out the correct spelling on my own. Even though this year I'm graduating 5th grade and moving schools, I'll always remember how Miss Herring impacted my life, not only in learning, but in the person I am today.
Beautiful. Oh my God.
I feel excited to come into your class because you create an environment that makes the students feel safe, understood. You have enough time for the class, and even though you are a wife, a mother of 2, and a teacher, you still have enough time to create activities and make everybody engage, and not only the students, but also you. Thank you so much for everything you've done, Ms. Garcia.
I was happy to go to your class every day, and you also had the best student teacher ever. Plus, you did Mad Libs with us.
Thank you so much. This means so much to me.
Get the points across and make every student understand it well. I can tell it's very clear you have a passion for history, and it really shows. It really does. From how detailed you are able to talk about it down to you being able to get a full understanding of history so you can teach it so flawlessly, okay?
Anytime I get to see you, either I'm in musical theater, dance, or dance team practice, it makes me feel the happiest. I feel like I can always talk to you no matter what. Thank you for being an amazing teacher and coach.
Aww, thank you, Maddie.
She is my favorite teacher. The kids who get her next will love her. Miss Warney, thank you for being my teacher.
Oh, tears.
Oh, I love you so much. I'm so proud of you.
gives them an understanding of what we've done and what we've accomplished, and it helps them like gain more knowledge about our culture.
We're very proud of presenting for the 4th year in a row our Living Museum, which is an amazing opportunity for our students to be able to represent Hispanic important figures who have contributed to the world in a very positive way.
Not only shows like the culture, the heritage, everything with like Hispanic Heritage Month and the studies, but it also like opened our eyes to who these people were like outside of their careers.
It just means a lot to me because that these kids that are here today can learn more about Jenny, about other people that are mentioned, like Selena Quintanilla, Frida Kahlo. They can learn about more how they are, what they did, maybe how they influenced the world.
In the immersion program, it's very important for students to learn about culture, to be able to be immersed in the Hispanic culture helps them having a wider perspective of the world and help them to contribute to the society and to embrace different cultures.
I think it just kind of shows like a more diverse understanding, and it really helps like appreciate the culture, because like of course there's a lot of cultures around the world that we can, you know, experience and learn about, but I feel like this is such a broad one that so many people don't know much about, and I think it's a good thing to share.
I think it's very important for our community at Gilbert High School to be able to participate in these kind of events and understand that the diversity and embrace the diversity we have among our community.
I think especially after this, I mean, I could dig in not only more in Hispanic, but I mean like other cultures to get a like more broad understanding of everything, and I think it'll be nice.
All right, friends, good morning. How are my Blue Healers doing today?
It's absolute magic to be here at Southlake Elementary, and you know, how amazing to say you're a part of being the first day at the first time a school opens its doors, and just to see the smile on the children's faces and the parents and the excitement, and it's just pure magic.
This first day of school is so special, just opening a school and being able to be a part of the history of this school and something that's a once in a lifetime for Southlake. It's just a really cool opportunity, and it's something that, you know, this group of teachers and this group of kids will always have and will always share, and it's something that, you know, we can always say we were here for that. We were here for that first day at Southlake Elementary.
Blue Healers family, and today you all became part of the Blue Healer family, and we are so excited to have each and every one of you with us.
In your mind, you visualize what the first day is going to be like. You visualize what the hall is going to look like for students. I mean, we have practiced how to navigate all the different places in our school without kids so that we were successful on the first day. And so to see it come into fruition and see all the students come into the building and walk the hallways and be excited about all the different experiences that they're going to have here at Southlake, it warms your heart in the best of ways, and it makes you proud to be a public educator because we are our best because of our students. And so to me, the school became a school when those students entered into the building today, and that was the best part.
So we might come to the circle for our closing, and then I might say numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, go and pack up as we're doing a read aloud or as we're talking.
When you kind of stop by the end of the night and you tuck your own kids in and you sit down for that minute, it's joy in knowing that you got all your kids home safely that day, because that's kind of one of the most stressful parts of the day is, are they getting home the way they're supposed to? It's just knowing that you have another 189 days that you get to spend with these kids and see how, and it's just kind of like another road of excitement to kind of get to see where you get to go with them.
In my entire career, I've never opened a brand new school. And so for me to be a part of this, basically almost year-long process of not only watching the building being built, but now to see the fruition of it with students and families coming in has really been, it's really been a great, great, great dream to see everything kind of come together.
Welcome back, Lexington One!
We would have a lot of events in the mornings. I would go to an elementary school and we would just welcome all the students as they walked into the school. It was always a fun time because you just got to see the kids walk in with a big smile on their face, and that really brightened up your day. And then during the school day, you'd go around, do different events around the school, whether it was with the special needs kids or if it was a pep rally, anything around that sort. And it was just always a great time. And then at the end of the day, obviously you have any sporting events, especially Friday nights with the football games. That was always a great time. You put on the suit, kind of put on the hands. With the head, you had these straps that you had to put on so it wouldn't fall off. So you put your arms through the head straps, put it to the body, and then once you put all that on, you put the feet on, and then you put the clothes on. We always had a zipper in the back of the shirts because Wiley was so big, couldn't get over the head. So you had the shirt, shorts, and he didn't wear shoes. He was just letting the dogs out.
The Mascot program has been something that we have taken a hold of and made it a very important piece of Lexington High School, and the kids that are involved in it, they love that they're able to be in costume and nobody know who they are, but they're still able to be involved and have some fun.
It was almost like you were a superhero. Nobody knew who you were, nobody knew your identity, but yet you were doing so much stuff in the community and you're getting out and just seeing so many people. I was sitting in the hallway before we graduated, and Miss Izzy came up to me. She gave me the hands and the feet, asked me if I was ready. And honestly, I wasn't. I didn't want to let it go, but I was also ready to show everybody who it was. I put on the hands and feet. I got a picture with her. Everybody around me was kind of in shock. They're like, no way, you were Wiley? I should have known. And I was just getting all sorts of different responses, and it was just really fun. And then you finally walk out into this big stadium. And not everybody knows yet, but you're kind of like waving around. People kind of start like pointing, looking. And then whenever you finally walk across that stage, get some cheers, get some noise from the crowd, and it's just really cool to finally show everybody. Give it your all every single time, even on the days that you don't feel like it. Give it 100%. Go out there and make somebody smile, make yourself smile, have a great time, and just really do cherish it.
We just walk into um, the stage, and then we just wave to everybody to say hi, and then we support our unified team. I was very excited, 100% excited for sure.
This is just a huge deal to me because I have always seen them as equals and as friends and as buddies and all that stuff. But today we got recognized nationally, which means that not only myself realizes that, but the whole school and the whole nation agrees with that, and that's huge.
Lexington One has been amazing in their unified and inclusive programming. River Bluff, before it was even actually built, had already signed off to be a unified champion school, which is completely different than every other school in the entire state. They had already planned to start some unified sports, inclusive youth leadership and whole school engagement within their school. And there's a lot of schools within Lexington One that have also bought in and have created this culture within the entire district that inclusion and unified is a pillar of their district, and it's something that they want to promote from elementary the whole way up through high schools.
I want all of our students to take away the thought of inclusion, the leadership and the courage to include everybody in everything that they do, acceptance, personal and social responsibility. All of those things are very important to the culture here at River Bluff, and important out in the world. When our students go out in the world, everybody is different. And seeing those differences here and including those differences here, students can take that for a lifetime.
We are teaching bigger lessons in life, teaching lessons about character, teaching lessons about folks being included in all walks of life. Our classes now for those students, our project, our PE Unified, Dance Unified, all those classes have doubled, where it's now competitive, where students covet that experience and they want to be a part of that experience. And these are some of our outstanding leaders, like Molly, who are outstanding young leaders who are giving their time to love and serve others. That's the core of River Bluff. That's our heartbeat, and that really speaks volumes to our culture.
All the students at River Bluff should realize that it doesn't only have to be at school where you include, it can be in the grocery store, in a restaurant, anywhere you are. I think that they should take away the being recognized nationally and take it away in their lives forever and ever.
Good evening. We're ready to get started. Thank you so much. Do I hear a motion to conclude executive session?
Madam Chair, I move we conclude executive session and return to general session.
Thank you, Mrs. Henson. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Is there any discussion? All right, hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. I now call to order the November 19th, 2024 board meeting. The district is in compliance with the South Carolina Freedom of Information Act by notifying the media of the date, time, and place of the meeting. The district tapes the meeting for accuracy in preparing the minutes. I now yield the floor to Mr. Chris Rice.
Madam Chair, fellow board members, staff, and guests, please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, so you may remember back in October, there was a great big goodbye celebration for me and Dr. Powers. Well, I'm still here. Surprise! No, after the November 5th election, the Lexington County Election Commission issued a recount of the Lexington 1 School Board election results. And that was due, there's a provision in the law that if the difference is less than 1% of the total vote cast, then there is an automatic recount triggered. And so we had to wait for them to certify those certify those results. They were certified last Thursday afternoon. And also, according to state law, the newly elected board members become the office holders a week following the certification of the election. So that's on Thursday of this week. So I got a bonus week, and y'all got a few more minutes of me tonight. So as a result of the recount, the election, we have two incumbents that were reelected, Mrs. Henson and Mr. Anderson. Congratulations. And at this time, I'd like to introduce the two newly elected board members who will become your school board members on Thursday, Mr. Nick Pizzuti and Mrs. Mackenzie Flashnick. And I'm just going to take a little moment of personal privilege. So, you know, some of you may know that I issued a little bit of my opinion in October. And I hope that my time on the school board has been known for kindness and civility. And it did not go as I had hoped. I wish I could take it back because it did not demonstrate kindness and civility. And so I want to apologize to Ms. Flashnick, and I'm excited that you're on the board. I've told Ms. McCown, she knows this, I don't think voters make mistakes. I think voters elect the voices they want to have on this board because each person up here represents a part of our community and a part of our community that wants their voice heard. And so I'm very excited about what's ahead for Lexington 1. Y'all are lucky. This is a great board to serve on. This is a great community to represent. And I hope you're coming on with a sense of pride because the legacy of school board members in Lexington 1 and the work that the boards do together is really something to be proud of. And I did not want disagreements with me to interfere with the work that you need to do with this board. And so I hope you'll accept my apology. And now we're going to move on. Do I hear a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the agenda as presented.
Thank you, Mrs. Henson. Do I have a second? Second. Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Is there any discussion? All right, hearing none. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? The motion carries. Do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the consent agenda to include the minutes of October 22nd, 2024 board meetings, student travel requests, new hire support staff, and the proposed SCSBA 2024 officers and directors, legislative resolutions, and constitution and bylaws changes.
Thank you, Mrs. Henson. Do I have a second? Second. Thank you, Mr. Anderson. And I will just mention, so the SCSBA officers and directors, legislative resolutions, and constitution and bylaws changes were all provided to board members around the state through the Delegate Assembly Handbook earlier this fall. And we have already certified our delegates, and that'll be all of the board members that attend the conference. And as a district, we have 9 votes at that delegate assembly, and that is assigned based on student population. And however the board decides to approve the officers' bylaws and constitution changes, then the delegates will vote in accordance with the board's wishes. So the delegates serve at they represent the board at the assembly. So that's what that is, just for a little bit of explanation. Board members, do you have any questions or comments about the consent agenda? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The motion carries. Do I hear a motion to approve 5 certified staff recommendations for 2024-2025?
Madam Chair, I move to approve 5 certified staff employment recommendations as presented by administration for 2024-2025.
Thank you, Mrs. Henson. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Is there any discussion? Ms. Price, thank you for doing the work that you do. Any updates from your point of view? What's the date of the employment fair?
It is in February, but we will be hiring long before then for that next school year.
Yeah, if you want to work for Lexington One, give her a call. So, all right. Any other questions or comments? All right. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And the motion carries. We received information regarding a contractual matter with OraSure Technologies. No action is required at this time. All right. It is now time for honors and achievements. Be sure to grab your proof positive. I'm going to let Ms. Ruth say something real quick about the proof positive.
Thank you, Ms. Green. I want to make a personal apology to Stephanie Abdallah, Tammy Ritchie, and Cheryl Bragg. When we were putting together the proof positive, we seemed to play musical chairs with your photos, your schools, and your names. We sincerely apologize. I sincerely apologize. Please don't task that to our hearts, task that to our overtired brains that sometimes when we're putting all this together, get a little confused and get in a hurry and get things going too fast. So we actually have some quickly printed changed copies, and we appreciate Kimberly Freeman helping us get it straight, and Tracy Holliday getting it straightened out tonight. So we've updated it in the presentation, and we have some copies here tonight. So support staff, if you want to grab a new copy, they're on the corner of the table back here. But we will also bring copies to the luncheon on Thursday. So we sincerely apologize. We never want to get it wrong, but we do not profess to be perfect in the communications office, and we will certainly let you know when we mess up, and we will get it right, though. We will make it right. So thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Roof. And so that means that the one you've got here is a collector's item, so be sure to get several on your way out. I know Ms. Bragg will probably, take several, so. All right, Dr. Postlewaite is down front, and I believe Dr. Price is going to join her as well. We have several honorees tonight, so when you hear your name, you'll come and stand with them at the front. Megan will be getting your picture while we tell the audience a little bit about you and your achievement. First, we would like to honor a few high-achieving high school students. The National Merit Scholarship Program named 12 Lexington One students semifinalists, keeping them in the running for significant scholarship awards. Semifinalists represent the top 1% of high school seniors across the United States. Please come forward as I call your name. From Lexington High School, Mary Carpenter, Ava Kanikar, Jesse Oates, William Robles, Lauren Saylor, and Jackson Winston. From River Bluff High School, John Gardner, Raghav Palapothu, Chandler Perry, Vaishnavi Sarakonda, Alexander Ziegler, and Anna Zhao. Each year, thousands of students submit test scores, teacher recommendations, community service hours, and personal essays. The program selects students who show exceptional academic ability. These seniors will continue in the competition against approximately 4 approximately 7,600 National Merit Scholarships worth more than $30 million. So congratulations, all of you, and good luck as you continue in the competition. Next, we are honored to have student athletes from Pillion High who placed first at state this past fall. Would Pillion High students Emma Jackson and Jacob Koval please come forward? Leave at night. You work with your principals, teachers, and staff to make sure all needs are met. You work hard to make sure our schools are clean and ready for students, inside and out. You're always there to lend a helping hand, whether it's to a student who is struggling with their homework or to a teacher who needs help setting up a classroom. You are also role models for our students by being kind, compassionate, and hardworking. You show the importance of teamwork and perseverance. In short, you are an invaluable asset to Lexington One. We are so grateful for your service, and we are honored to celebrate you tonight. Our support staff members of the year will also be honored at a special luncheon on Thursday, where they will have their picture taken with Dr. Postaway and Dr. Price, as well as a group photo. Today, we want you to enjoy your time in the spotlight and stand up front with Dr. Postaway and Dr. Price as we call up this year's group of support staff employees of the year. From Beechwood, and there's a lot of names, let's save our applause for the end, okay? From Beechwood Middle, Rashid Gauze. From Carolina Springs Elementary, Annabelle DeMela. From Carolina Springs Middle, Betty Roman. From Centerville Elementary, Amy Carlton. From Deerfield Elementary, Cindy Althouse. From Forts Pond Elementary, Kevin Bolin. From Gilbert Elementary, Deborah Lawson. From Gilbert High, Dana Crumpton. From Gilbert Middle, Margie Lambries. From Lake Murray Elementary, Ernest Hollowanger. From Lakeside Middle, Laura McCombs. From Lexington Elementary, Jenny Forgy. From Lexington High, Will Ergel. From Lexington Technology Center, Ken Bowman. From Midway Elementary, Stephanie Abdallah. From Meadow Glen Elementary, Tammy Ritchie. From Meadow Glen Middle, Cheryl Bragg. From New Providence Elementary, Keith Miles. From North Lake Community Learning Center, Johanna Pearson. From Oak Grove Elementary, Monica Morales. From Pillion Elementary, Stacy Brown. From Pillion High, Brooke Schumpert. From Pillion Middle, Lisa Davis. From Pleasant Hill Elementary, Renee Ioveno. From Pleasant Hill Middle, Fred Hutchings. From Red Bank Elementary, Melissa Blackwell. From River Bluff High, Wanda Taylor. From Rocky Creek Elementary, Sandra Ewing. From Saxgotha Elementary, Shanna Osborne. From White Knoll Elementary, Jamie Cobb. From White Knoll High, Dory Neese. From White Knoll Middle, Wendy Nance. Congratulations to all of you. Tonight, we honor 3 schools that were recently named Special Olympics National Unified Champion Schools. Carolina Springs Middle, Meadow Glen Middle, and River Bluff High are our most recent schools recognized for having a school climate that exudes a sense of collaboration, engagement, and respect for all members of the student body and staff. These Lexington One schools have worked hard to create an environment where everyone feels welcome, valued, and included both in school and in their local community. To be named National Unified Champion School, the school must meet 10 national standards of excellence. Please come forward as I call your name. Representing Carolina Springs Middle tonight are Principal Patrice Green, Special Education Teacher Anna Faust, and Assistant Principal William Estes. Representing Meadow Glen Middle tonight are Principal Brian Lim, PE teacher Abby Chisholm, special education teachers Jennifer Grant and Anna Stackhouse, instructional assistants Tremaine Coleman, Shauna Kelly, Mandy Long, and Livonia Walker. And representing River Bluff High tonight, I believe, is Assistant Principal Meg Huggins, Stacy Krupewski, and student Molly Merritt. And I think Meg needs to stay. Are you here for the next part? Are you here for the next part? Is Jacob here? Okay. All right, then stay up here then. Next, we invite not Jacob Smith, but Assistant Principal Meg Huggins to stay up front. River Bluff High School earned recognition for student success and was named to the 2024 Advanced Placement Program School Honor Roll, earning a gold distinction. The AP School Honor Roll recognizes schools like River Bluff whose AP programs are delivering results for students while broadening access. Schools can earn this recognition annually based on criteria that reflect a commitment to increasing college-going culture, providing opportunities for students to earn college credit, and maximizing college readiness. River Bluff High School had 65% of seniors who took at least one AP exam during high school, 41% of seniors scoring a 3 or higher on at least one AP exam, and 20% of seniors who took 5 or more AP exams. In addition, River Bluff High School received the Advanced Placement Access Award, given to schools that ensure equal access to advanced placement courses for all students. Congratulations. Now, we are excited to honor two of America's healthiest schools. Beechwood Middle and Midway Elementary are once again among the 781 schools nationwide named America's Healthiest Schools for the 2024-25 school year. The recognition, awarded by the Alliance for a Healthier Generation, a leading children's health organization, honors schools' dedication to supporting the health and well-being of students, staff, and families. Would representatives from Beechwood Middle please come forward as I call your name? Principal Leah Sarantopoulos, Teacher Angie Kruger, and Food Service Manager Dorothea Roberts. This year, Beechwood Middle was recognized in 7 topics, including supporting school health services, implementing local school wellness policy, improving nutrition and food access, bolstering physical education and activity, enriching health education, cultivating staff well-being, and increasing family and community engagement. Congratulations. Now would representatives from Midway Elementary please come forward as I call your name. Principal Tim Carnahan, Food Service Cashier Melissa Casterline, Teacher Laura Gates, Assistant Principal Trudy Montgomery, and Food Service Manager Jason Trice. Midway Elementary was recognized in 6 topics, including supporting school health services, implementing local school wellness policy, improving nutrition and food access, bolstering physical education and physical activity, cultivating staff well-being, and increasing family and community engagement. The transition was awkward, so thank y'all. Their recent success has made Beechwood Middle and Midway Elementary the most decorated schools for the America's Healthiest Schools Award in South Carolina. Congratulations again. Back in October, the South Carolina Department of Education and the South Carolina Education Oversight Committee released the 2023-24 school report cards. Available online at screportcards.com, the report cards provide information about each school and district, including test performance, teacher qualifications, student safety, and other accountability measures. Schools receive an overall rating of unsatisfactory, below average, average, good, or excellent. Elementary and middle schools are rated on academic achievement, student progress, multilingual learner progress, and school climate. High schools are rated on academic achievement, high school success, preparing for success, multilingual learner progress, graduation rate, college and career readiness, and school climate. A few years ago, a new Lexington One tradition was started to recognize schools that improved their overall rating on the school report card. Tonight, we honor those schools by presenting Schools on the Move certificates to the following representatives. From Deerfield Elementary, Principal Stephanie Taylor, Assistant Principals Claire Mabe and Brandon Shermer. From Gilbert Elementary, Principal Stephen Deo and Assistant Principals Mark Garner and Colleen Pelly. From Gilbert High, Principal David Dixon and Assistant Counseling Director Jennifer Adams, Assistant Principal Ricky Tillman, and Career Specialist Dana Crumpton. From Rocky Creek Elementary, Principal Michelle Smith and Assistant Principal Kristen Smalley. And from White Knoll High, Principal Nicholas Pearson. Congratulations to all of these newest schools on the move. As Dr. Postaway makes her way back up, we want to take a moment to recognize our schools that retained their overall excellent rating. Principals, please stand as I call your school's name. Lake Murray Elementary, Lakeside Middle, Lexington High, Meadow Glen Elementary, Meadow Glen Middle, Midway Elementary, New Providence Elementary, Pleasant Hill Middle, River Bluff High, and Rocky Creek Elementary. Congratulations. All right, thank you very much for taking time with us to recognize our amazing students, staff, and schools. We love sharing these achievements with you. If you need to leave, we will give you a quick and quiet moment to do that. Thank you. All right. If everybody wants to, we'll regroup and get moving again. And I believe it is time for Dr. Postlewaite's superintendent's report. So I will turn it over to you.
Thank you. I know Mr. Tunnelson's working to get the report displayed, but in the meantime, I would just go ahead and say that Mrs. Green talked about the first item, which is just the certification of election. We wanted to talk about the timeline for the seating of new board members. New board members will take their oath of office here on December 3rd at 5:30. We think that 11th Circuit Judge Walter McLeod will be able to be here to officiate and to offer the oath of office for you. That will put you in good shape to attend the South Carolina School Boards Association Delegate Assembly, which occurs the following Saturday and Sunday. We have board orientation with Attorney Andrea White on December 10th, and then we'll be all set for the December 17th board meeting. So that's just a quick run through of another option. We've shown different calendars before, but as you said, we have to monitor and adjust all the time, so there's just a slight adjustment in the timelines there. We're going to move on now to our monthly update on the strategic plan, which Dr. Price handles for us.
Thank you, Dr. Postlewaite. Good evening, Madam Chair and ladies and gentlemen of the board. Just a quick update on our progress for our November task. Later this evening, you will get an academic feature presentation that highlights grades 3 through 5. And just as a reminder, you see the goals and standards numbers referenced in parentheses. Everything, all the ones represent academic excellence. The 2s refer to a supportive climate, and 3 focuses on our use of resources. Earlier this month, as of last week, we had a collaborative data dive with our principals and board members who were able to participate and attend that focused on our summative state data and our school report card results. We had one item that we were going to present this month, but we are pushing it back because the work involved with this takes a little bit more than originally anticipated when we made our plan. So we will bring you an update on our job description template and plan for updating in January. And back in the spring, early summer, the district leadership presented 3 different checkpoints along the way, a 6-month, a 12-month, and an 18-month checkup to make sure that we were meeting our goals on the progress for our strategic plan. Well, our first checkpoint is coming up. And so we would like to do this in January, where we have a special workshop to focus and spend some time on this rather than trying to do it in the context of a board meeting, where we will dive into things that have been accomplished to date, things that are still in the works, next steps along the way, and a little forecasting for what's to come in year 2. In addition to that, we will have some updated, in-depth information from our Instructional Services Department, and we'll be connecting with you soon to try to nail down a specific date that works for everyone. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thanks, Dr. Price. And Dr. Price will be working on the budget for the coming year. So the strategic plan workshop in January is actually a first opportunity for the board to see the progress that we've made and talk about your priorities as we move forward with the planning for next year's budget. Moving on then, here's an update from this year's budget. As you'll recall, we ask the board each year to create some what we're calling pool positions to take care of students who may move into our district, which put our enrollment over the allocation formula for specific schools, or students who may have very specific needs. When we use those positions, we let the board know so that you'll know what we've done and we can keep you up to date. We've allocated 1.5 positions from the pool for the behavioral support program. One of them is a general education behavior support assistant. We had this position funded for the past few years from ESSER funds, the relief funds that came during COVID, And when those funds expired at the end of last year, this is one of the positions we cut, but we're now realizing we really need the position. Here's the way that position works. If a teacher is experiencing extraordinarily difficult circumstances with a student who's not responding well to the traditional methods that a teacher might use, the behavioral specialists design a program for implementation in that classroom. And then the behavioral specialists move on to the next school, the next student. But this behavior support assistant stays behind for a period of time to assist the teacher as the plan is put in place. When that happens, the implementation of the plan is much more successful. So that's why we are restoring that position. Then the second, the .5 position is to serve the students at Atlas. We knew when the program was opening at the beginning of the school year, we wouldn't have very many students there, but we have enough students there now with needs for adding the other half-time counselor. So we saved a bit of funding for the first few months and are adding the other half-time counselor, which would make this a full-time position for next year. So these funds, again, are coming from the pool positions. There were 20 pool positions, I believe, 10 for special ed and 10 for regular education. If that's not right, hopefully someone over here on this side will correct me. We have about 15 positions left, half for special education and about half for regular education. So that's the status of the pool positions. At the end of this year, when the board considers your budget, whatever funds are left there will go back into the notations that you receive for you to decide how to allocate those funds for next year. So moving on then, Dr. Price mentioned the data dive, and we simply wanted to share with everyone the pictures of our board members sitting with principals as they looked at the areas of strength when they were considering the data that they have collected. These are lagging indicators from the previous years as they looked at what they had done well and the areas in which they could possibly improve when it comes to the rating calculations for the report cards. So clockwise, we see Mrs. Shealy, Ms. Green, Ms. McCown, and Ms. Henson there sitting with various principals at their tables. And then finally, I wanted to mention board members have been talking about this book great on their behalf. Multiple board members are interested in reading it. I think one or more of you are already reading it. Mrs. Green was aware that we could possibly obtain copies of the books at no cost to the district. So the State Department of Education has agreed to give us the books that they had on hand. There will be enough for the senior leadership team and board members to read together. So we're all looking forward to reading great on their behalf and having board members take turns facilitating the various sections of that book for us. And then the final thing I'll mention is just that when we come to the agenda item tonight dealing with the calendar, before any board member makes a motion, if I could have just a moment to explain what your options are, we would appreciate it, because you, depending on what you want to do, you may not need a motion. Normally you would put a motion on the table before you start discussion, and you may still need to do that, but if I could explain more clearly than I did last month when it wasn't on the agenda for action, I'd appreciate that. Thank you, Mrs. Green.
Thank you very much. Do we have any speakers tonight? No? Nope. Okay. Good. All right, we are moving on to new business, and we have the A+ team back there to do our mission in action. When I first read it, I thought it said missing in action. I'm like, where you been, Heath? But mission in action. And so we have, for the last few months, had presentations about interventions and work that has been happening in the pre-K and then the primary grades, and now we're at the elementary grades. And so I'm going to turn it over to Heath and his team, Mr. Branham and his team.
Yeah, good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board, Dr. Postaway, Dr. Price. We're excited to be sharing with you tonight an initiative that our instructional services team has put into place. Oops, it went too far. And we're going to be talking to you about 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade implementation around what's known as OGAP. We love acronyms. Most organizations and businesses do. But that stands for Ongoing Assessment Program.
this has had a profound impact that you'll see tonight. Early on, even though it just started this fall, it has already had immense impact. We look at professional learning as schools and school leaders. We look to make sure that teachers are actively engaged in observing, participating in the work, reflecting on their content knowledge, what they already know and what they don't know, and then how that translates into classroom practice and how they can get immediate feedback on their pedagogy and on instruction. So we want to make sure that it has real-world classroom application immediately. And so our focus, the district's focus thus far, because of letters and other initiatives, has been on upper elementary in terms of elementary schools, so 4th and 5th grade, and multiplicative reasoning. And I can tell you, having been in education for 28 years, as a math teacher, elementary and middle, I have never seen something this robust that makes the most sense with the quickest impact than I have this. I'm going to turn it over to Heather Price, who is our math coach, and after that, Crystal Mills, a 4th grade math teacher, and we'll finish with Hillary to talk about the impact it's had in its very short time here in Lexington 1.
Hi. So ditto to what Mr. Brandon said. I've just really loved the multiplicative reasoning that we've been able to be a part of. At Centerville, we have professional learning communities on Thursdays. We have the opportunity to do that each week. And during that time, we unpack our critical standards and we really focus on our next steps. And OGAP has provided a resource. They have an item bank that we use as exit slips with our students. And it gives us a lot of information about what our students know and what they can do. And another thing within OGAP is a learning progression that they provide. And so we're able to use that progression during our professional learning communities and really find out where our students are. And we create our small groups, not only for our intervention time that we call flight time, but we also use it during our core instruction time with our math workshop. That's what Ms. Mills is really gonna speak into. And then also, as a math coach, I know we're really focused on 3rd through 5th grade, but I've had the opportunity to be a part of the additive reasoning as well. And so Mr. Branham asked that I mention, so we've already started, I've started bringing some of those things back to our 1st and 2nd grade teachers because we see some needs, especially in 1st grade, with students understanding 10 and a strategy making 10. So we did some assessment there as a small assessment team, and we've started some small groups there in our intervention time. 2nd grade, we've really dug into some number sense things with number beads and creating some number bead strings to 100. And so we've been really excited about the opportunities that OGAP has provided for us in all of our grade levels. As I said, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Mills, and she's really going to speak into that multiplicative reasoning and the learning progression and how that looks.
I tell people all the time I can talk to kids all day long, but this is not my area of expertise yet. So as a teacher, I speak for all of my 4th and 5th grade teachers who have done this. Oftentimes you go to a lot of professional development that has great strategies, great things to try, but to implement takes more planning and things of that nature. But with OGAP, like I left there the next day and was able to so easily implement that into my classroom and what we were already doing. So the implementation and how smooth and easy that was very relieving and nice to have. So you see here, I kind of followed the OGAP cycle. So I gave my students an exit slip, as Ms. Price mentioned, to kind of see where they are with their multiplicative reasoning. And you can see that data here. So we have a progression OGAP provides, starting with additive on the right, and we want to move our students toward that multiplicative reasoning. So that kind of shows this progression. So you can kind of see my students with this were in the early additive stage on the progression at this time. So that gave me like strategies, and I knew exactly where to start with them. I know this is hard to see, but you can see how I sorted their work. I was looking for common strategies they use, misconceptions, those types of things, and I just sorted them. And those were my groups. So we did a couple of things to implement very easily into what we were doing. In the workshop model, we do daily number talks and number sense routines, and these are just a few of the number talks that I was able to easily implement into my classroom to help students make connections between where they were on that progression and trying to push them to the next level. Another part of what I did was small groups. So we have been, multiplication and division and addition, of course, are all like key concepts in math. So we were just so happened to be working on multi-digit multiplication. So this was our students are still kind of struggling with that conceptual understanding. So I was able to take those facts and show them ways to make sense of multiplication on a deeper level. And like I said, it was just so easy to integrate into what we were already doing. And you can kind of see this here. We were looking at a basic fact, but so many of them are in that additive reasoning stage where they're counting by ones and things of that nature. So we use the dice to help them see the factor as a unit versus just an individual. So we did that in small groups. Another part of the workshop model is our learning stations. So these are things that I did with them in small group first and then pushed out into a learning station. You can see them using base 10 blocks to build multiplication equations as well as arrays and breaking them apart and how we can, use what we know to kind of build on where we want to be. And this is another picture kind of the same thing of them, using manipulatives and things to help deepen their understanding of multiplication. And this is where we are now. So I want to mention that this was over about a month, so not a super long time, but you can, like I said, I know that's hard to see, but you can see they've already made growth on the progression in just that short amount of time. And this is comparing above where they started, that was on the slide before, and where they are kind of currently. And while you can see it's not tremendous growth, but I think for, a few weeks, that's pretty remarkable to see them moving towards that multiplicative reasoning. But like I said, it was just so easy to implement. When we had the training, it was hands-on. We got to experience it. We got to do what we wanted the goal for our students to do, and it was really engaging. So that part I was appreciative of. It wasn't just, hey, these are some things you can do, but we got to do them as well. And this is just one example of a student. On the left, you can see he started drawing equal groups to represent 8 times 4, which is that additive reasoning, counting, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Versus on the right, you can see he's kind of transitioned to recognizing multiplication as a unit versus singles, and he's progressing in the right direction. And like I said, it was a pretty short amount of time for them to do that. But like I said, we saw so much growth, very easy to implement. My team has, we've worked together to, figure out ways that we can use the progression to kind of help our students go to the next level.
So our system-wide implementation is a 4-year plan that involves So the training involves training our elementary, middle, Algebra 1, and geometry teachers, as well as our math coaches, interventionists, and special education teachers in the modules that are relevant to their grade band, as you see listed here. So OGAP is all about knowledge-based decision-making, which you heard tonight. It's about teachers learning and implementing low-prep, high-yield strategies. This training is also enhancing our abilities to teach our new math standards that we'll be fully implementing next year, as there's a focus on understanding, application, and reasoning. So we have received very positive feedback from this professional learning. It's just blown me away. So I'll leave you with a few teacher testimonials that I've received, some messages that really highlight the impact this training has had on professional practice. So it's an exciting time for mathematics in Lexington 1. And at this time, we'll take any questions you have for the team.
Not a question, but just a comment. First of all, thank you all for coming and sharing. I've heard about OGAP, but it's good to get a little more of an understanding about what it is. I understand that teachers, particularly in the elementary level, are learning a lot with the new curriculums coming up. So it is very helpful to get direct feedback from you guys on how that learning is going, and also that in many ways it's very positive. And what you've shared today is the whole reason we're here, is we're educating our students. We want to do it well. We want to make sure our teachers have the tools and equipment to do that. So thank you for bringing that tonight, and thank you for all you do day to day.
Thank you so much for all that you shared. So we're talking 3rd through 5th grade, right? And that's what you teach? You teach 4th grade. So these examples were from a 4th grade classroom. Yeah. And so was this like their, I don't know elementary math standards, so was this like their introduction to multiplication, or?
No. So one unique thing is I taught 3rd grade for the past few years, and I taught 4th grade years ago, but this is my first year back and forth in a while. So in 3rd grade, they start learning that conceptual understanding of multiplication and division, like just what it is. And we use those types of models, like the group models, arrays, to help them understand, like a concrete understanding of what that is. So this is a progression of that, like an extension of that, like we're building that into multi-digit numbers. But like I had some realizations, like I never realized as a teacher, like I thought they had multiplication and knew what it was, but through this training, like it's like an aha, like this is where we need to be progressing them to. So it was just building on of what they learned in 3rd grade.
Because we know math is an area in elementary schools where we've really struggled over the years. And so building that understanding of the math is so great. So is there like a plan? And like, for example, on the sheet, you have fractions 3rd through 9th grade and proportional reasoning 6th through 9th grade. And I'm sure that builds.
Yes, so currently we are focused on 4th and 5th grade with multiplicative reasoning. Our 6th through 9th grade teachers are currently in the fractions module. So we have a 4-year plan kind of mapped out so that our 6th through 9th grade teachers have fractions and proportional reasoning, and then our K2 have additive reasoning, and our 3rd through 5th grade have both multiplicative and fractions.
And how does geometry moving to the beginning of that secondary math progression, so we've got these 8th graders who are going to be doing that, will they be prepared if we have fractions and proportional reasoning going through 9th grade? Do you see what I'm asking?
Right, absolutely. Okay. So there are a lot of connections that the consultants with OGAP are making with proportional reasoning, and then also rational numbers and the work with that transfers through all of those high school courses.
So curious. Thanks for sharing, y'all.
And I had a similar question, because I know with my own children, they actually were somewhat deficit in fractions because they started algebra in 8th grade, and 8th grade is a big time for fractions, and so they didn't know how to do fractions. And so I appreciate you asking that, because just making sure that they're in the rush to make sure that they are taking
now
geometry and algebra, that we're not, because fractions are very important. I think we've missed that a little bit along the way, too. And I just think, Hillary, that you should have, it's an exciting time for mathematics in Lexington 1, put on T-shirts. That just is a good catchphrase. So, does anybody else have any questions? Mr.
Yeah, so I
Rice?
have a question. I saw some of the teacher testimonials about, we're so excited about this professional development. Can you speak to what that process is? Is this like a summer that they do? Is this something they're doing during school? Or I kind of like to understand what the professional development is and the time commitment associated with that in addition to your existing schedule.
So the training consists of 4 face-to-face days and then 1 to 2 follow-up days that are school-based. So we do have cohorts running right now, and we will in the spring, and then we'll offer them in the summer for any teachers who would like to go ahead and take them, perhaps a little bit earlier. Maybe they're new to our district. But so again, there are 4 face-to-face days. We have broken them up, though, so we have 2 consecutive days, about a month in between, so that teachers can go and try these strategies with their students, bring back the student work, and let's dig in it together for those last 2 days, and then continue to deepen our content knowledge. And then we schedule through the school and the math coach a follow-up day. And like I said, that's school-based, and so the consultant will go in and be a part of the PLC, just like a normal operating day. Teachers will bring student work. They'll talk through those strategies, some next steps to move those students along the progression. They'll also go into classrooms and model some strategies alongside the teacher if the school decides to go that route.
And I guess from a teacher's perspective, obviously you're moving them from non-multiplicative all the way to multiplicative. I guess from a feedback perspective, I know you're trying to encourage children at that point. You're trying to help them along the way. But does OGAP provide you strategies for taking a student who's here and how to move them here and how to give them immediate feedback? Or is that something you as a teacher have to use your expertise to draw from?
No, the OGAP gives us lots of strategies and item bank items that we can use in our classroom. And like I said, it's so easy to implement that like we would try the strategies in our professional development, so we knew how to use them and know what to do with them. And then as Hillary mentioned, that second time we would bring back our student, we brought back our exit slips and we're like, hey, this is what we're seeing. What can we do for these students to move them? And they provide us with the strategies to use.
Okay. I just think it's an excellent program. Obviously, my background, I really love the mathematics, love the science. We're seeing a lot of our employees that we're hiring that don't have those basic skills, and I can kind of tell when they're trying to run certain operations that they don't have the reasoning that you're talking about here in that 3rd through 5th grade. So I compliment you on doing that. The earlier we can start them with the mathematics and understanding, the better off they're going to be, and they can literally change the world and solve a lot of our problems, but they need to get that confidence early. So I really like the program, and I like the enthusiasm you all are showing about the program too, because I think that's contagious with the students. So thank you for that.
Thank you all very much. Good work. Thank you for coming. All right, moving on to the first reading of Administrative Rule KBER, Support Organizations, and I believe Ms. Roof is taking the lead on this one.
Yes, ma'am. Madam Chair, members of the board, Dr. Pacewaite, Dr. Price. So last month, you approved the policy that brought us up to date with the state law regarding support organizations that have to register with you. And as I said, I was going to then work on the administrative rule that provides more of the process and the procedures to help facilitate the working relationship between our schools and the very important support organizations. So this would, when approved, would replace our current existing administrative rule LEC-R with KBE-R. And it is, the way we developed it, we took the model policy for the administrative rule, compared it with our existing administrative rule, because there were some things in the existing one that we wanted to retain. And we also worked with some principals who helped us look over it to make sure that we were keeping our policy and our practices and our procedures in line. we of course wanted to make sure that we incorporated the requirement that the support organizations had to register, and reiterate our requirement that the volunteer background screening application that had to be submitted for officers with the HR department. Basically, the other things we stress again is the separation in terms of financial entities between the district and the support organizations. We want to ensure the collaboration between the school and the organization, especially with the principal working very closely with these organizations. Protect the district legally in terms of liability and what we have to do financially, but also recognize that these are support organizations that are run by volunteers, and we don't want to place burdensome restrictions on them that make their jobs too hard to be able to support the very important things that they do in our schools. So we present this for your consideration, review, and edits for the first reading, and it will come back for second reading if y'all so desire in December.
Ms. Reeve, can I ask a question about the, under the new section about fundraising? The first bullet is, no one may solicit monetary contributions from students at any time. I can think of a couple of examples, like the penny drive for Relay for Life or the Heart Walk or things like that. There are times where our students are those going to be prohibited now?
No, I think the thought there is that information has to go to the parents and that they would send the money to the schools through the students. It's not asking the students to donate directly without the information going home. So I don't think that was any different than what we had in some of our language, but I will confirm that to make sure.
Right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
In the policy, it talks about, I'm looking for the spot where I read it earlier. It talks about that Lexington School District 1 may audit these organizations. Is there any precedent of that? And I guess what I'm thinking is, as a district, we're audited annually. And so is there any precedent of organizations like this being audited, or what would the process be if the district wanted to audit one?
I am not aware of any time that has happened in my experience. I think it would come up if there were any questions about spending or money not coming up missing, but I would defer to Dr. Postwaite. I think brought her mic up, so she may have a comment, or Ms. Miller.
Yes, good evening. I would not say there's been a precedent to do that at any district. They are legally separate entities, and so if they wanted to have an audit, they could arrange for that to be done, and the only time the district would get involved is if there was something brought to our attention.
As I recall, that sentence is in there because it's part of the statute.
Okay.
That was passed.
And it's a little unrelated, but most of our support organizations are registered with the Secretary of State, and so they have to file tax returns. And so there are some financial eyes on most of these groups in that manner. So.
Sorry, I'm just trying to choose my words very carefully. Under fundraising, when it says students, well, I guess all of these bullet points, is this new because of the law that was passed, or is this just verbiage that you came up with?
This was information. So we used the model policy that went with, let me get my letters right, KBE, but since we already had one in existence, we were pulling from what was already in existence, as well as we have a guideline, a document that is a guidelines that we've used. This not just it's kind of like a handbook that we have used in the past. So we pulled from that as well to put into this new version of the policy.
Okay.
Anything else from Ms. Roof? And again, this is the first reading, so if you have comments or questions about it, contact her office, and she can take care of that for you. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to action items. All right, we have, do I hear a motion to approve policy JICJ, use of personal electronic communication devices?
Madam Chair, I move that we approve policy JICJ, use of personal electronic communication devices.
Thank you, Mrs. Henson. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. All right, I believe Mr. Cooper is the lead on this one.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Madam Chair, Dr. Postwick, Dr. Price, members of the board. Tonight, you see before you virtually the same policy version that you discussed and had for first reading last month in November. We have added 5 additional words to that policy. You'll see those in red. So in the definition of the school day, we have added start time and dismissal time to coincide with tardy bell and dismissal bell to provide further clarity for that period of time for our schools that do not have bells. And also in the section regarding enforcement of the policy during non-instructional times, we struck the word refusal, changed it to failure for failure to obey to make that portion consistent with language in other board policy. And we do bring it to you tonight for second reading and approval.
Does anybody have any questions or comments?
So this policy will stay in effect unless something changes legally by June 30th.
It'll expire June 30th.
It'll expire June 30th.
Unless
so
they renew it. Right.
Okay.
They have to pass another proviso or a permanent state law. Otherwise, it expires on June 30th.
But we can keep this policy.
Well, I see what
right,
you-
because
yeah.
we're just modifying an old policy that we've had. Right.
That is correct. We're asking for this policy to go into effect in January to be in compliance. And then, the proviso, which these edits were largely based on, it may sunset in June. This policy would be our policy unless directed by the board to review and modify it again at such a future time.
Right, I was just going to say it's our recommendation that regardless, the board bring this policy back to revisit it prior to the start of the coming school year.
Yeah, I think. Go ahead, Ms. Shealy.
Just to share, I think a number of us have kind of talked individually. We've gotten lots of feedback from all directions, I think, regarding this policy. I think there was even a proposed edit about where the phone should be besides out of sight. And I think at the end of the day, at least my thought is we need to pass something as close to address the current proviso. There will likely be a monitor and adjust phase. And so that's, I think, we could probably spend all night arguing over words or phrases. And again, there's so many different opinions about the specifics of this policy, but I think we've done a good job trying to do the best we can with the feedback we've got, and look forward to kind of working together and continuing to garner feedback as we go through this process to figure out what's going to be best for Lexington 1. Just my comments.
And I'll just add, pardon me, Mr. Rice, I think that we will not be the only ones getting feedback. I think that General Assembly members are going to be getting feedback not only from school districts and school personnel, but from their stakeholders as well. And so I could see this getting some adjustments before it's, just because, I think this is a good idea, but sometimes good ideas, you need to live with them a little bit and figure out how I made a really awkward analogy the other day of you can't leave the house without pants. Sometimes you put on pants, you grab pants and you realize, oh, these pants were too tight, or oh, these pants were, And so we just have to live with this for a little while. And I think we'll be able to provide better feedback to our reps and senators after we've lived with it and just see the real, and we can't possibly anticipate the
the impact that it's going to have with, I mean, I think we can dream, oh, well, what about this scenario and what about this scenario? But, you know, we've got 27,000 students and probably 20,000 of them have phones. And so just what it's going to look like in the school day, I think we're just going to have to hold on and adjust. So, all right, Mr. Rice. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, just piggybacking off what you said, I mean, this is state law. If you don't have this implemented within January, you're violating state law. I think we as a board in general, we say, hey, we want to make sure that we have policies in place so that we don't violate state law. This is state law. It's not, I mean, we've gotten all kind of feedback, like Ms. Shealy said. We've gotten all kind of feedback. I've heard people who are total proponents of this law. I've heard people who are vehement, vehemently opposed to this law. I mean, I've heard it all. But we have to follow state law. And I just want to say again what I said during first reading. I think we as a community, if we're not happy with it, or if we are happy with it, we need to give that feedback to our lawmakers. They are at the State House. You can give feedback to us here, but the people, we are following state law, and the lawmakers are at the State House. So if you're vehemently opposed, you probably need to let your lawmakers know. That would be your House of Representative members and your state Senate members. If you are just overjoyed with it, you need to let your state law makers, your House of Representatives and your senators know that. You can always let us know that. And the only other point I was going to make about it is this is a policy we'll have in place, but we'll get ready to seat new board members because it's one of our policies. As long as we wanted to modify it and it's still in line with state law, we can still do that, but we have to stay in compliance with state law. So I like what Dr. Postwaite said about maybe we revisit it before the next school year starts if we need to. But I think the key thing is whatever feedback you're giving, yes, I'm sure I speak for some of the principals here. They'd love to hear your feedback, but sometimes they love not to hear your feedback. But make sure that your lawmakers hear your feedback one way or the other. That
Mr.
makes
Rice
sense.
has a really good point to let your lawmakers know. And just for context, they passed this proviso like at the last minute in the last session. And so your advocacy now, they're probably not going to get to it in February or March. It's probably going to be something, I mean, we may have to live with this exactly the way it is until probably June or July. So, but again, share it with the folks that can actually make the substantive changes about it.
And I'll add one last thing. The only thing I'll say too is, even though it's an anti-bullying proviso, I mean, I've listened to both sides of this. I think what we have to keep in first place is, are the students learning? Are the students in an environment that's conducive to learning? If this policy makes it where it's not conducive to learning, that's a problem. If this policy makes it where it's conducive to learning, that's a benefit. So we need to make sure all of our comments, we may like it, we may not like it, I've heard both sides, but look at it through the lens of, does this allow this student to learn? Does this improve, or does this, does this hinder? Look at it through that lens before you fire off everything to everybody about what you think, because what we're here to do as a board is we're here to make sure we have an environment so students can learn. That's really our first role for being here.
One quick comment. Mr. Rice opened the door talking about for students learning, and I'm just going to beat the dead horse one more time about the third violation of in-school suspension. And all I would ask is that if your team starts seeing a trend of so many students losing instructional time because of consequences we have laid out, and you think before this June 30th that it needs to come back to us to add in another layer of consequences so that our students can be in classrooms learning, I would ask that you please do that.
Absolutely. One of the biggest tensions for our teachers and principals to deal with as they were considering the language of the policy was most of our students will do precisely what we ask them to do. And we want parents to understand we are not taking the phones from the students. So if there's some sort of unthinkable emergency, the student can get to his or her phone. We don't, though, want January and February to be about cell phone policy implementation. Right. They're prime instructional months. They're the least interrupted school months of the entire term. So we want January and February to be about rich and engaging teaching and learning. And our teachers felt that anytime they were asked to take a phone from a student, they were risking upsetting a student. Most students will comply and turn the phone over, but when a student refuses to do that, it can create a very disruptive circumstance. So that was what we were trying to weigh, and I'm sure our Teacher Leadership Council will be the very first to say we need to fix this if it isn't working, and that's as it should be. So thank you.
And let me just add that I would hope that across the district that we are consistent with this. I think that it's imperative that our administrators convey to our instructional staff how this is to be implemented and how to address concerns like Dr. Postlethwaite was just talking about. We have to be equitable across the board with this in order to get a good measurement. So I would ask that we all get on board with it.
All right, any other comments, questions? And thank you for the work that y'all done to pull this together, Mr. Cooper. All right, we have a motion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Do I hear a motion to approve policy KI and KIR visitors?
Madam Chair, I move that we approve policy KI, KIR visitors.
Thank you, Mrs. Henson. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Ms. Ruth, I believe this is you. Is this you? You've been at that podium a lot tonight, Ms. Ruth.
Get my steps in.
You're usually the silent person back in the back.
I try. Every time I leave the room, though, you know what happens. So.
You come back with candy in your mouth, right?
Or food, yes. There are no changes from first reading to second reading, so it is up for y'all's vote.
Thank you. Any questions or comments, board, about this policy? No? All right, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? The motion carries. Do I hear a motion to approve policy DM, cash in school buildings?
Madam Chair, I move that we approve policy DM, cash in school buildings.
Thank you, Mrs. Henson. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Ms. Miller?
Yes, the only change from your first reading is the changing from principal to the word district, who can make the arrangements for night deposits upon request. So it is to you for second reading and for your vote.
Thank you. Board, you have any questions or comments about this? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The motion carries. All right, I'm now going to turn it over to Dr. Postlethwaite to talk about the calendar options.
Thank you. When we talked about this item last month, we didn't go into it in depth. A board member asked if we really believed that e-learning was the best option for students on these makeup days, and the answer is unequivocally, if all things else being equal, no. But, excuse me, I think that if you look at the chart that is on this item in board documents, we explain a lot more clearly than we did last time what our options are. The district must make up 3 missed days. So the first day has already been made up. The second day has been made up. The third day, which was September 30th, we closed the schools. We did not feel that e-learning would be possible that day because of all the damage from Hurricane Helene. The scheduled makeup day for the third day is February 17th. So the board has 2 options. If you want to leave the calendar as it was published, which would be e-learning on February 17th, you do not need to take any action. If you want students and teachers to come to school on February 17th, you would need to move, a board member would need to move to amend your 24-25 calendar, converting February 17th to an in-person instructional day. So there are actually two decisions to make on this particular item tonight. How to make up September 30 is the first decision. So would you like me to pause there so you can think about that, or do you want to hear the rest of my explanation for the second day?
Proceed.
Proceed.
All right. Can I ask a question? I'm sorry.
Yes, of course. Let's take it slowly so we
yeah.
can get it clear.
So understanding your first comment about, if all things held equal, an e-learning day is definitely not ideal.
Particularly when it doesn't occur on the day that schools had to be missed. I think e-learning, as it was originally envisioned, was for days when the roads were slippery. Mm-hmm. And students, we knew a storm was coming. Ideally, everyone had time to prepare. But when it doesn't fall on the day that the students missed, then it certainly raises serious questions about its efficacy.
What would be the primary concern about making February 17th an in-person instructional day?
I think we would have two concerns as administrators. One would be that we would have high student absenteeism that day, which in the long run, if it's significant, hurts our funding formula, because our funding is based on average daily attendance, not average daily membership. The second concern is that because and both of these concerns are based on the fact that we published our calendar saying that students and staff were going to be off on February 17th. Our second concern is that staff members and families have already made traveling plans because they're off the previous Friday as well. That would be a 4-day break. It falls in the middle of that long stretch between January and spring break. In the past, we have experienced high absentee rates among the adults. So those are two possibilities. We can make either one work. The reason we're bringing this is because we published our calendar without being clear what could happen. And one thing we recommend, based on board members' request, is that in January we bring back the calendar for next year so that we can fix this problem. But the root cause of this problem is that we published our calendar, and it said, because we hadn't thought about this situation of not being able to make up a day on the day we miss, it says that February 17th and March 17th, our schools are closed and staff and students are off.
One last question, if you don't mind.
No.
Understanding that our ultimate goal is what is in the best interest of our students' education, which is the best option? The ultimate goal being our students' best education.
I still think that's, for given where we are at this point in time with this particular set of circumstances, I think that's a coin toss. I think there are advantages and disadvantages, and there are going to be problems and complaints, whichever option we choose.
Thank you.
I could just throw in there that this has been the one topic that I have had more feedback on than any other topic this year, from parents, from teachers, administrators, and students. Kind of hard to change course in midstream, but I do agree that e-learning, as many parents have called it, and teachers, it's really a no-learning day. I think its intent is good, but as Dr. Postlethwaite has said, that we've got a lot of people who have made plans. High absenteeism on that day will hurt the district. So,
Well, and I'll just.
Did
you get that in the minutes, Ms. Halliday? I mean, I completely agree with bringing the calendar for 25-26 back and fix this so that this quandary doesn't occur again.
Exactly.
I also, I am very reluctant to change a calendar midstream unless there is an extenuating circumstance, and we've not even hit January and February yet with as far as weather. And so we don't know what else is coming. And I think changing the calendar now in November for February, not knowing what weather events might happen in January and February, you would have to bring it back again. And so to me, you just let it lie. It's not ideal, but it was. I mean, it has been published, and it's November, and so my preference would be, and again, this is my preference for the next 24 hours, but my preference would be that just to leave it and fix next year because you can, and that would be completely appropriate and necessary. But for this year, there are. I think the pitfalls of changing it now are greater than the benefits of changing it now.
Yeah. Now, let me ask Dr. Postlewaite, Dr. Price, looking forward to March 17th Makeup Day. Do you feel the same way about that one as well as interfering with plans? That one's a little further out, but.
The difference on March 17th is that is a day that the local board, according to state law, is allowed to forgive.
Okay.
To waive. You would ask for you would grant a waiver for that instructional day because it's the 4th.
Okay.
If the board chose to waive that day, does that hinder funding in any way?
No, it does not. Everyone is counted as present.
Okay. Interesting.
That's kind of like one of those participation trophies, isn't it?
Well, and I'll just add one more thing about this being an unusual situation where it's not an e-learning day that is observed on the same day that it's missed. This actually is unique in that it's an e-learning day where robust lessons can be sent home. I mean, there's time to plan for that. I know that that's not music to the ears of teachers and administrators, but there is, if it ends up standing as an e-learning day, there is some time to prepare for that and make it a more worthwhile e-learning day than we, I think, typically interact with.
And what if we were to, instead of changing the calendar, change when the work is due? Instead of 5 days, it's due the next day.
I think the challenge with that would be related to those who've planned to go away for the 4th. With those who've planned weekend trips with their families.
Yes.
And that if they're going to see relatives, they probably are not going to want their children doing homework if they've taken them to see their grandparents.
Well, and I'll speak to another thing, because we've gotten feedback with people saying, hey, I'd rather have it be an in-person learning instead of e-learning because people want to go on vacation. But I will tell you, a lot of times if you have a student that's maybe a sophomore, a junior, or senior, you're using an e-learning day to take them on a college visit or Air Force Academy visit or something like that. It's still academic, and so that's why I'm kind of reluctant on if you tried to say, hey, it's due the next day, because then that puts the student in just an anxiety twist right there. So everyone, I kind of feel the same way everybody else is saying. It's hard to make a shift midstream because probably a fourth of us walking around are planners. That calendar got published, boom, we started planning things and doctor's appointments, wisdom teeth out, et cetera, et cetera. It's the whole gamut. It's not all about just going and having fun and games. It's planning life around that calendar. So I know it's a coin toss, but trying to change in midstream is, that's hard. And I'm from the feedback we've gotten, I know it creates a huge burden on elementary parents and elementary teachers. They love to have students in school. The e-learning doesn't work as well for them. The middle school and high school, they can, fluctuate a little bit better and handle it. I know it creates a burden. It's just tough to change it midstream because I can see, all right, well, what happens if now all of a sudden it's an in-school learning day for your student and your little third grader or your little eighth grader comes to school and there's a substitute there and they hand them the same e-learning assignment that they were going to hand them at home, but now I'm the sub. I can't help you with anything. Here's the assignment. It's your in-school learning, learn. I mean, those are the things that actually happen. So it's just like the cell phone policy. Some people are going to be on one side, some people are going to have to be on others, but I just think we as a board, like we always do, we just really weigh it, make our decision. We'll have to live with some of the criticism. We'll have to live with the praise as equally as the criticism, but we got to make some kind of decision.
Okay, so where we are on this is I will call for a motion. If you want to leave the calendar the way it is, then don't make a motion. If I call for a motion and you want to change the calendar, make a motion to change February 17th to an in-person day.
Would there be a motion in addition to that, or would that to bring back the 25-26 calendar?
They're bringing that back administratively, so.
Okay.
So
All
that's
right.
an administrative function, so,
And
okay.
then there's also the option to waive the day in March
Yes.
as well.
Which would be a second motion.
This would be a second motion.
Yes, okay.
So right now, we're just considering, do we make a motion or not associated with February 17th?
Right, do you want, if you want to leave the calendar as it is, don't make a motion. If you want to change the calendar, make a motion, okay? All right. Do I hear a motion to change the 24-25 school year calendar? All right. Do I hear a motion to?
Before you ask
Yes.
that question. Sorry.
It's okay.
Dr. Postlewaite, does your team have a preferred recommendation regarding March 17th?
We haven't discussed it. I don't know if the team does or not. We really haven't. Our default is to work, so I don't really think we have discussed whether we think an in-person day on March 17th or waiving that day would matter. I think casual conversations that have occurred around here are that teachers have a lot to do, and what's the constant message we hear? They don't have enough time. They don't have enough time. I think as long as it's one day right now, we would be comfortable if the day were waived. And I should restate something I stated incorrectly a little bit ago. It's not that everyone's counted present. It's that absences that day don't count against us.
Okay.
Which is different. It's just no negative. Right, so it doesn't pull our average down with absences on a day like that. I think all things considered, what I know about having been a teacher is for anybody who's had 20 children, let alone 25, 28, or 30, at your house for a birthday party, at the end of 2 hours, you're ready for them to go home. So when you think about classroom teacher being cut, it's those children every day, and you're responsible for making 6 hours engaging, exciting, and memorable in all the right ways for students, and that is hard work. And you are exhausted in that long run from January to spring break, and so are your children. So I would lean toward, this almost never happens, I would lean toward waiving the day if it were up to me to make the decision. But our teachers, principals, district staff, and support staff, we respect our board, and we'll be happy to march out smartly with whatever decision you make.
Thank you for saying that, and that's where I was going with that. This year, the way spring break falls, because Easter falls so late, it's really probably the latest our spring break could ever be in our district. And so if we do school that day, then we will go from February 17th till April 14th with 0 breaks, and that's not the practice that we like to have at Lexington One. So.
Do I hear a motion regarding waiving March 17th, 2025?
Madam Chair, I move that the board waives March 17th as a weather makeup day.
Thank you, Mrs. Henson. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Is there any other discussion?
Just a quick comment. I think we all agree that in-person days are the best for our students.
Yes.
But I also feel like we agree that we want to make sure everybody's clear on what our calendar looks like. So I do strongly feel that for the calendar for the next year, we want to make that very clear that the makeup days will be in person, but we always want to work together to do what's going to be best for everyone. And so I think this is an important, concession may not be the word, but an important way we want to say we're trying to work with everybody to do what's going to work for everybody.
Any other comments or questions?
I guess just one question in general, as a board, collectively over a school year, we're allowed to waive. Is there a limitation on how many days we can waive? Is
Yes,
it 3?
sir. That's in, if you want to note the section of the code, it's 59-1. 59-1-425, paragraph B. And it indicates that the local board can waive 3 days.
3 days, okay.
And then if there is some sort of disaster, you can appeal to the state board and legislature after that.
Okay.
All right. Anything else? And thank you.
Last thing, I'm so sorry. So February 1st rolls around and it snows.
Right. And we have said we're not going to use it as a makeup day for September 30. But if February 1st rolls around and it snows, this board is not going to convene at 6 o'clock that morning. It will be an e-learning day.
Right, okay. On February 1st, the snow day would be
on-
an e-learning day.
On February 17th, whatever day it snows would be an e-learning day.
Got it, okay.
I mean, I'm in favor, well, I know we'll vote, but I like the idea of waiving the day because even an e-learning day puts a lot of burden on our teachers.
It does.
I mean, I've heard from teachers, we're tired. We are tired. It's mentally grueling. Sometimes it's physically grueling. It's just, that almost gives them a break. Hey, I can, even especially like our elementary teachers that have elementary students. All right, all I gotta do is keep up with these 2 or these 3 or these 4. I just think, to me, I think it sends the right message that we hear the teachers and we're trying to say, hey, we know it's tough. I mean, Dr. Postwaite just said it. I mean, it's tough. Let's give you a day off just to regroup yourself. And I'll tell you what most of our teachers are gonna do on that day off. They're gonna prepare for Tuesday so they're gonna be ready for those students.
Yeah.
It's not just hanging out at the beach. They're gonna say, what can I do to help these students be better and learn? So that's just my opinion.
And for 4 of our 5 high schools, this extra day isn't in the semester with the classes that they've missed anyway.
That's true. So, I'm done.
Now, just to clarify, on the question you asked a little bit ago, regardless of how many scheduled makeup days, a district is permitted to use 5 e-learning days.
Okay.
So if we were to have 3 snow days, bad road days, when everyone can get online, we would automatically convert to e-learning. That's our obligation as an e-learning district.
Yeah, I'm good.
Anything else?
Madam Chair, can you repeat the motion that we have on the table?
Ms. Henson, will you repeat your motion?
Sure I've got that
Yes,
right.
I move that the board waives March 17th as an e-learning day. I mean, waives it from being an e-learning day, yes. To no school.
All right.
I second that.
Yes.
All right. So everybody's clear and all your questions answered?
Yes.
All right.
Before the board votes, we may make it clear in that motion that we're actually waiving September 30, the requirement to make up September 30 on February 17th. It's precisely what you intended.
Well, October 1st on March 17th.
I'm sorry, October 1st and March 17th.
Madam
yes.
Chair, I move that the board waives the October 1st makeup day on March 17th.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Henson.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson.
Okay.
All right. Anything else? I'm not going to pause very long this time because I'm going to keep moving. Okay.
Don't
All
ask
right.
anybody.
All right. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. All right. Do I hear a motion to reappoint as directors of the Lexington One School Facilities Corporation James A. Compton, Albert J. Dooley Jr., and Stephen A. Hussman to serve terms extending to November 19th, 2027?
Madam Chair, I move to reappoint as directors of the Lexington One School Facilities Corporation, James A. Compton, Albert J. Dooley Jr., and Stephen A. Huseman to serve terms extending to November 19th, 2027.
Thank you, Mrs. Henson. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Rice. Dr. Postwaite or Ms. Miller? Ms. Miller, you going to take us into the weeds on what this is?
Yes, ma'am. The board approved 3 resolutions for refunding of bonds at the last meeting. That was Series 2013 Installment Purchase Revenue Bond, Series 2015 Installment Purchase Revenue Bond, and the 2015A General Obligation Bonds. The Lexington One School Facilities Corporation is a component unit of the district, and the debt transactions for those specific bonds are accounted for through the entity. All debt transactions of this entity are properly reported in the district's annual financial statements and are subject to the annual audit. And the board must appoint the directors of the Lexington One School Facilities Corporation every 3 years. So it's time to reappoint them, and all members have agreed to continue to serve.
I just was curious, did they get a hold of Steve Huseman, or? do you
Yes.
know? Yes, they were able to?
Yes.
Okay.
Any questions? All right. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. And just for interest, Mr. Compton and Mr. Dooley are both former Lexington School Board members. So, you have received the monthly financial reports for your information. At this time, I'll turn it over to Ms. Miller again.
Yes, as I discussed last month in your transfer report, you would see a large increase, and you have seen that. Those are the instruction budget amounts that we have moved to the newly established accounts with the respective budget owners. Our goal with the new accounts, the account numbers, is to provide better reporting for the chiefs of the departments and their executive directors to assist them with just more effectively receiving that information so they can manage the budgets. And then the last thing I wanted to mention in your general fund budget, again, you'll see that our revenue by far was lower than our expenditures. Again, it's just very important to remember that that's why we have a fund balance, because we're at that time of year where we do not have our revenue coming in like you do your regular paycheck. So we're paying all our bills without having the money come in. So we are fortunate that we do have a fund balance to cover that.
And just for interest, so like a lot of our revenue starts coming in January, February, because that's local property taxes, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And then with state revenue, when do we get that for like that was appropriated or in July?
That does start coming in each month, but the true amount is not known until about May. So in May, if you've received too much, they'll actually take it from you going forward through May and June. So you do receive what they had originally projected, but that amount does fluctuate.
And so until the local revenue comes in, I mean, we're paying salary, payroll, and that sort of stuff out of fund balance, right?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. You may recall at the August meeting that we received a report of all school organizations that have registered with the Board of Trustees under the new amendments to South Carolina Statute 59-17-170. At any point when other organizations register with the district, they will be posted in the reports that are in this section of your agenda. All right, we are moving on to adjournment. Please check out the district's social media to see all of the Veterans Day programs our schools hosted, and those are like some of the best things that we do all year. And the veterans that come and the parents that come and celebrate, and the parades in the schools and the performances, it really is one of the best days of the year in our schools. I truly think that. This month is American Education Month, and it is also Education Support Professionals Day on November 20th, which is tomorrow, and Substitute Educators Day on November 22nd. On behalf of the board, we would like to recognize all of our amazing educators, support staff, and substitutes for their hard work and dedication to Lexington One. We will also continue to celebrate our support staff of the year at a luncheon on Thursday.
Congratulations again to all those folks that were here earlier this evening. With Thanksgiving just around the corner, we would like to express our gratitude to our entire Lexington One family, and we wish you and your families a safe and joyful and grateful holiday. And I'm actually going to say goodbye, and it's really goodbye this time. Do I hear a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Madam Chair, I move that we adjourn.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Wright. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.